What do you get when you have a Broadway professional and a camera crew? Long story short, you get a lot of cool info when you get ShowbizU luminaries. Actress Alli Mauzey made her Broadway debut as Brenda in Hairspray. She also created the role of Lenora in Broadway's Crybaby. Nowadays, she takes the Broadway stage nightly as Glinda in Wicked and shares her story and thoughts on the business of acting. Thank you, Alli, for joining us today in Sardis. Is your picture up here anywhere yet?
Not yet.
Okay, yet being the key word. You are a performer, as well as many other tricks in your bags of things that you like to do. When did you know, at what age did you go, this is cool, I'd like to do this?
Well, I always thought it was cool because all my friends were doing it. It was like a social thing for me growing up. It was just something that I was kind of good at, and it was fun. But it really wasn't until I made my Broadway debut in Hairspray when I was making a professional paycheck, and I was living in New York City, and I had my own apartment, and I was like, wait a minute, I can make a living doing this. It was on my radar, and it wasn't on my radar. I don't think it clicked until I was doing it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have to always do this now.
It was like the first time you opened up that paycheck.
Well, it was like, I had some student loans to pay off first, so a lot of that.
Thank you, here you go.
Yes, exactly, but a lot of that went to some student loans. But yeah, after a while, once I kind of saw my bank account grow, I'd never really experienced that, because I'd just done like smaller theater things as a kid, where you make like $100 or something like that, So then I realized, I can feed myself, and I can, live in New York City and even save some money at the same time,
And how did you land that show?
Hairspray was my Broadway debut. I landed Hairspray. I went to college at NYU, and then randomly I broke my foot right before graduation, and I don't know, it was really hard to get around with a broken foot in New York City. So I moved back to California, where I'm from, for the summer. And in the meantime, I kept taking voice lessons with my teacher in LA, and my voice teacher encouraged me to, just get out there and just perform as much as I could, because you never know who's gonna watch. And he encouraged me to do this competition. I don't remember what it was called. And you get awards, but the point of it really being is you're getting in front of agents and things like that. So I did that, and I got in front of some agents, and that's how I booked my first agent, was through that. I so didn't want to do that competition, but I understood now what he was getting at. From that first agent that I got, Hairspray was one of the first auditions he sent me on, actually. So yeah, I just went through a couple auditions out in LA, and I got cast for the first national tour first. And then, but that wasn't going out on the road for like a good 9 months. And in the meantime, the girl playing the same track as me, Brenda, she was one of the nicest kids in town, she booked another Broadway show. She was in the Broadway company, and then she booked a different Broadway show, and they asked if I'd like to come join the Broadway company for 6 months before I got on the road. So I joined the Broadway company, which was cool because it was still basically the original company, and it was before the Tony Awards. So I got to experience all that. I got to be on the Tony Awards. It was kind of like and then it was a hit show, won Best Musical amongst many other awards, and I had cast members who had been in the business longer than I have, and they're like, just so you know, not every Broadway show is like this. Not everybody gets on their feet at the end of a Broadway show, and it's like a big party, So it was pretty neat. First go.
You mentioned the A word, the agent. For a lot of performers, when to get the agent, when not to get the agent, when to get the union card, when not to get the union card. Let's tackle each one of those.
Yeah.
When do you feel it's important to get representation?
I would have found it hard to book a union job had I not had an agent. I don't know if it still exists, the equity candidacy points program.
There is, yes.
So you can definitely do a bunch of equity shows and get points. And I just think that takes a long time, but it's possible. But my first agent told me, I was in union when I was with him, and he said, there's a lot of good non-equity stuff out there, and if you can kind of make a living at that until you book the right project to kind of catapult you where you're going to be consistently working with equity more, there's no rush, So I did do maybe a couple non-equity things in LA. And then when I booked Hairspray, it's kind of like a no-brainer. I'm going to join the union.
You're on Broadway. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly. So I could have either been like, I'm not going to take this job, and I'm just going to be non-union, But at that point, and then once your union, say for whatever reason you lose your agent or whatever, it's still easier than if you're a non-union to get seen for the bigger union stuff.
And you started your trajectory to get to which a lot of people will know you as Glinda.
Probably,
They've probably
yeah.
seen you in one incarnation or another.
Sure.
What was that process? How did that
Getting
one
that
go?
role?
Yeah.
Again, I was in Los Angeles. I've booked 2 of my Broadway shows from Los Angeles, which is crazy because a lot of my friends who graduated from NYU, you know, were pounding the pavement, and they're like, "What do I have to do? Move to LA to like get a job in New York?" You know, it's just interesting. LA's got a smaller musical theater pool out there,
Right.
So I actually thought that was. It worked out well for me because it was easier to get seen. There was less of us out there, you know. Okay, my process with Glinda. I had gone in for an audition just because they were looking for future replacements, but they weren't looking for anybody right away. What's interesting is my agent wasn't sure. I got sides for both Glinda and Elphaba, and it was kind of like maybe you should just go in for both. And I thought that was maybe not the best decision because then I think you confuse people, and then they don't know what to do with you, you know. So I chose to go with Glinda, and had a great audition. And then I think like 6 months later, they called. They were coming back to LA. The associate director and I met, and we did a work session, which lasted like 20 minutes. And she just kind of helped fine tune and help me with the character before I was going to go in with the creative team, which was, you know, director and book writer and music, and it's basically everybody except Stephen Schwartz couldn't make it. And so I did. That was kind of like what I thought was my final audition. What was a trip is it was in a church because we were in a studio before, but there was a big dance audition with a big beat going on behind it. So casting decided to go somewhere else. And it's not weird that we were at that church because actually I'd been to those auditions before at that church, but I'd never actually been like on the pulpit at that church doing an audition. So that was kind of a trip, but it's fine.
Well, now when you look out at the audience or at the stage door, you see all these people appreciating your work. What are some of those moments that you just go, wow, this is really cool? You
know, at the end of shows, especially like when you're at Wicked and everybody's kind of on their feet at the end of the show and you get to take that bow by yourself. I take it with Elphaba, but it's really humbling. It's really cool. You have like, I don't know how big that theater is, 1,700? Am I making that up?
No, it's a
large
big theater.
It's a very warm feeling to get all these people there just like liking what you did that night. You might meet someone who's going through a rough time, like you made me laugh tonight. Thank you so much. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, that made my night so important. I'm so grateful I came to work tonight and I have the opportunity to make that person laugh for, 2.5 hours, whatever, so.